Have you ever dreamed of selling it all and cruising into the sunset? Well, that's exactly what we did. It's no fun going it alone though, so why don't you join us for the ride? It's been a minute since we kicked out our latest video, so just to update everybody, we are currently in Spanish Wells, which is east of Miami in the Bahamas chain, and it is on the northern part of Eleuthera. Zooming in a bit, you can see that Spanish Wells is actually an island unto itself, and it connects to Russell Island by a bridge, which you can't really see on this map. But to the right, the green island is the top of Eleuthera. And we're spending most of our time on a mooring ball in a very small field. There's about 5 or 6 mooring balls here, just at the southeast tip of Spanish Wells. And if you recall from our last video, we got stranded on our golf cart, but let me tell you, the company was amazing. They were there in about 15 minutes with another cart for us, and we got back onto our adventures. A visit to Spanish Wells wouldn't be complete without a stop at the famous Buddha Bar and Restaurant, which I would describe as all kinds of island funkiness. Their kitchen is actually a converted school bus. It's quite a popular place though, because the food is good and the drinks are even better. That night we dinghied over to the sandbar on Russell Island for dinner and had a pretty good meal. On the next day, Lori and I decided to do some exploring of Eleuthera, so we took a short ferry ride over and rented a car. The ferries run all day and it's $6 each way. Shout out to Deja's Car Rental who met us at the dock with a nice little car. Our first stop was Governor's Harbor, which was about an hour's drive south on Eleuthera. In our exploring at Governor's Harbor, we happened upon this old church, which I found to be pretty picturesque. The harbor itself is a working port, as you can see that small little green freighter in the background. We had heard good things about the Buccaneer, and we tried to stop in for lunch, but sadly they were closed that day. I think it was a Monday. Made with pallets. It looks to be that this is the town's fairgrounds. Anyhow, we were all getting hungry and thirsty. We saw this cool little beach bar restaurant on the way and we decided to check it out. The owners couldn't have been more welcoming, greeted us at the steps with their dog, and invited us in.
Come on, JJ. His name is Gino.
So Laura and I split a burger there with homemade fries. It was amazing. Obviously the view was amazing. And I believe the husband is the bartender there. He says he makes the cheapest drinks in Eleuthera. Let me tell you, they were amazing. Definitely stop at Delish. You know, sometimes you just got to take a chance on a place, and this was definitely a highlight of our day. On our way back to the ferry dock was the Queen's Bath, which is a popular attraction on Eleuthera. Our next stop was at a tourist attraction called the Glass Bridge, which is a one-lane bridge that essentially separates the bay in nice light blue color from the ocean, which is kind of a dark blue color. I'm sure it's more dramatic from the air, but it's something that people find very interesting. Lori wanted to walk across it. I thought it was no big deal. Back on our mooring ball, this gives you a sense to how close to town we were and how well protected it was. It's a full moon. Crazy how there's a ferry coming through the channel and how this whole reef gets exposed on a full moon. One of the problems with this small mooring field is that if boats of longer length come in, like that far white catamaran, when the winds die and the current dies, you may bump into each other. Not good. I think that Maurice and Renee on the gray boat Norcat had to fend off that other boat all night long. This cool little spotted eagle ray joined us at the mooring field one morning. Fun fact, their tails are pretty long and can be about 2 to 3 times the length of the width of their bodies. Another reason to like Spanish Wells is that the grocery store there is one of the best in the Bahamas. The local weekend farmers markets are pretty good as well. Walking along the main road after the farmers market, we found this cool little park. We were fortunate enough to catch a rocket launch one night from Kennedy Space Center, and it looks like the booster rockets landed on a barge somewhere near us in the Bahamas. You can see them lighting up in the trail just below the main rocket. You know the booster was pretty close when it was lighting up the nearby clouds. There aren't too many places in Spanish Wells to bring your dinghy, but one of them is right in front of Pinder's Market, the big blue market. Spanish Wells is very much a working port, and it's known for its lobstering and also the many boatyards that are there if you need any work done. R&B Boatyard is very popular, and it has a unique way of getting very large boats, like up to probably 75 feet long, up, and it hoists them up through a railway system. The main road has a little bit of a drawbridge that they lift up when they're actually hoisting the boats up and move them past so that they don't block the road. It's kind of a bit of an engineering marvel. For smaller boats, they also have a number of dry docks that they lower and then raise back up. There are a number of steep streets in town. I think this is 10th Street. Do not try and take a 6-person golf cart up full of people because you will have to bail out. Don't ask me how I know. Yep. So the cottages in Spanish Wells are pretty nice, and many of them are for rent. The beach at low tide is the place to be because it creates a natural little lagoon when it gets shallow, and you could walk all the way around in a 180-degree arc. Another thing that we found interesting is the way they move cars between Eleuthera and Spanish Wells. The weather wasn't very good to leave Spanish Wells, so we decided to take another excursion over to a well-known place called Harbour Island. The ride itself consisted of a ferry, a taxi ride, and then another ferry. Our ferry driver says that he's been doing this for 40-something years, and once we got to Eleuthera, he was the guy that actually took us in his van to the other ferry to get us to Harbour Island. The Harbour Island ferry was jam-packed with people, but it was only a quick, probably 5 to 10 minute ride over to the island itself. There was an islander renting golf carts right at the dock. We picked one up, and this time Josh was going to drive. I guess Harbour Island is supposed to be pretty swanky, with a lot of nice villas tucked behind walls. I guess the week before, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift were there, so good to be there the week after. Always an adventure when Josh is leading the way.
We made it this time.
We made it. Set the parking brake. Look at this. We were a little worried that we wouldn't make it up the hill on the way back, so I decided to take it on foot. Harbour Island is known for its pink sand beach, so we definitely had to check it out. Look at it, world famous conch salad being made in the island. Only the best. Harbour Island conch.
Yep.
The mango, little green pepper, apple. I'm sure there's some secret recipe stuff in there that we're not even just love.
Just love.
Okay. Back at the mooring field, the moorings aren't in that great of a shape, so we added a few extra lines because some big winds were expected. Everybody's going in which direction? The back there, that Sea Ray in front of Nurcat Cat. That's Bobby from Sailing Doodles. And here we're getting a lot of turbulence because this big boat is leaving here, this freighter. The weather was turning better and we'd be leaving soon, and we were happy to get a visit from some of our good friends on Sailing Vessel Sonder that we had met last year in Georgetown in the Exumas.
Why do you wear a weight belt?
You have to take the tarp. Because you get super buoyant with the wetsuit.
So what are you going to go do, Bray?
Catch lobsters. Clean the boat.
Wow.
And sausage Cousteau. Over time, a lot of algae and sea creatures attach to the bottom of your boat. And if you don't clean it, it'll hurt your mileage and make you go a little bit slower. So it's something you need to do periodically. Should be at least once a month. We had a good 2-day weather window, and we'd be leaving the next morning, heading back toward Florida. So this was a perfect time to clean the boat. Lesson learned, I let it go a little bit too long, so it took me over 2 hours to do it. I ended up being waterlogged, took in a lot of salt water, but glad to have it behind me. We staged a few miles south of Spanish Wells so that we can get an early start the next morning. So we'd be traveling with Scout and Norcat on their PDQs, so there'd be a total of 3 of us. And leaving from Spanish Wells, our route would be day 1, about 150 miles up to Grand Bahama Island and anchoring in a place called Jinsuir. And then the next day would probably be about a 5-6 hour ride to the St. Lucie Inlet in Florida. We had 2 ideal weather days forecasted, so we decided to, as a group consensus, make the jump and go there instead of going up to the Abacos.
It's our last morning here in Spanish Wells. It's Easter Sunday. We'll be spending the rest of the day traveling to Jinsuir.
So the forecast was 3-foot swells. We started off with at least 6-foot swells, but it really wasn't too bad. The swells were pretty gentle and coming from our rear quarter, so they were pretty much pushing us along, and you barely even felt them. The swells tapered by mid-morning, and we had an absolutely beautiful ride all the way to Jinsuir. It was about a 10-hour day at 13.5 knots. A long day, but at least the weather was nice. Here's a nice shot of Maurice and Renee on Norcat. They come all the way from Montreal to the Bahamas and then back again. We ran autopilot the whole way, and it was so calm that I could just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Weather days like these are few and far between, so you really have to take advantage of them to move long distances. If I recall, we got to the entrance of Jinsuir at about 5 p.m. Jinsuir is kind of an interesting place. It was supposed to be a development on Grand Bahama Island with large homes and yachts, but they never built it. So now it's really just a nice little anchorage for folks like us that don't want to pay to be in a marina. It's not totally a secret though, as there are a good dozen boats there anchored before we even got there. Thankfully, there are plenty of room for our 3 boats, and actually Scout rafted up to us for the evening. Our morning anchor retrieval can certainly wake the entire anchorage. However, to our surprise, even though it was sunrise, all the boats had already left to make their way back to the United States. So it was really just the three of us leaving Jinsuir. We had a pretty good ride back to the St. Lucie Inlet. I think it was 5-6 hours, and overall a nice time, and happy to be back into the good old USA. It was great spending 3 months in the Bahamas, but it was also great to be back home. Thank you for watching this jam-packed video. We hope you like it, and please subscribe to our channel.